the morning after, the night before. So, dust is kind of settled now on Artur Beterbiev versus Dmitry Bivol. Now, watching that fight live last night was incredibly entertaining. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was fantastic. I mean, the 12 rounds like that, every round just seemed to just fly by. They just seemed to be 2 minute rounds almost, it felt like. 36 minutes just flew by. It was a great fight. It had a little bit of everything. It had pressure. It had good boxing from both guys. It had... I don't think any guy was necessarily badly stunned at any point. Like, I never got the impression we were, moments away from a big knockdown or something like that. But in terms of just an entertainment spectacle, it was a fantastic fight. I mean, I loved it. I knew it'd be a good fight, and it definitely lived up to it. I thought it was fantastic. Now we get into the result. So, watching the fight live, and I watched it for the first time slightly different than how I normally do watch-alongs. I was able to use my I think it's a JLB mic. I was able to use that, which has a separate port that you can hook your headphones into. So I was able to listen to the commentary. Now, I obviously listened to this on the DAZN commentary, and they were very much bigging up Dmitry Bivol for a lot of the time. I know Chris Mannix, going into the last round, had Dmitry Bivol a point ahead. And you were looking at what Bivol was doing, and I was noticing that he was landing the more clean, effective shots. I was noticing that he was landing at a higher connect percentage, even though he was throwing less. I think at one stage he had nearly a double the connect percentage, in spite of the fact that he threw, I think, 200 punches less at one point. That was coming into the championship rounds. During the midway stages of the fight, I noticed that he was landing at a 50% connect ratio, in spite of the fact he was throwing a lot less shots, a lot less power shots, but he was landing more than Beterbiev. However, Beterbiev was the much more busy guy. I mean, I think by the end of the fight, he had over 1,000 punches thrown, and that's quite incredible, really. I mean, light heavyweight, yeah, it happens at light heavyweight. You see a lot of punches thrown. Light heavyweight being the word there. They're they can do everything that a heavyweight can do, but they're just not as big. Simple as, they can throw a lot more shots, they can hit hard, they got good strength, they can box a bit. It's a bit like the cruiserweight division in that sense. They have the stamina. And for someone like Beterbiev, who was used to, getting guys out of there, although he's a pressure fighter who normally is able to get his opponents to succumb to the pressure. Throwing over 1,000 punches, little over 1,000 punches in a 12-round fight, and to still have the stamina at the end is particularly impressive for someone who, again, you would associate with Beterbiev had a 100% KO ratio going into this fight. So, again, that's very impressive on his end. At the time when I watched this fight, I thought Bivol just did enough to nick it. I didn't really see the 8-4 in Beterbiev's favour. So I said, right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to watch this fight this morning, watch it with the commentary off, because commentary can sway you a little bit on how a fight is going, and it definitely can do that. So I went back this morning, watched it, and definitely, it is not a clear-cut Dmitry Bivol, yes, he's won this fight. No. There are rounds there that originally I would have given to Bivol. When I look back now and reflect, I'm like, no, definitely not. I think round 3, I think you can give that round to Beterbiev, to be honest with you. I think a lot of people were that was a round where people were kind of saying, was it Bivol, was it Beterbiev? No, I'd give that round to Artur Beterbiev. The first 2 rounds definitely you give to Dmitry Bivol. I was quite surprised that all 3 judges gave the 12th round to Beterbiev when you look at the scorecards, because that's actually a round that I think Bivol did a little bit more good work in that round. We're not going to go by it round by round. Straight off the bat, you have people like Ryan Garcia saying, robbery, this, that, and the other. And, if you find yourself in agreement with Ryan Garcia, you're going to have some problems. That immediately, when I seen that, I was like, I got to go watch this fight again. When I see Ryan Garcia saying robbery. When I watch this fight, is it a close fight? Yes, 110%. Would I have a problem with someone scoring this fight to Dmitry Bivol? No. Would I have a problem with someone scoring it a draw? No. One of the judges did. Would I have a problem scoring it to Beterbiev? Again, likewise, no. This right here is the definition of a close fight. And it also is one of those fights where it becomes, what do you prefer? And you often hear people say that, it's really down to preference. In this fight right here, it became pressure and a lot of punches thrown, which Beterbiev did. Or cleaner quality over quantity, more so is how you can explain what Dmitry Bivol was doing. Although he wasn't he was throwing nowhere near as many shots, he was landing at a good connect percent. and they were eye-catching shots. However, the judges didn't seem fazed by that. And a 5-7, even an 8-4, when you look back and reflect on it, you're like, yeah. To be honest with you, when you look back and just watch it with the sound off, you see what Beterbiev was doing. A lot of people were speculating that Beterbiev, and I know his corner were kind of trying to urge him on in the later rounds, saying, you need these rounds. They obviously thought that they were behind at one point in this fight because they were urging him to go and try and force the knockout. Part of me wonders if, because I don't want to say necessarily there was an error of urgency on Beterbiev's face going into the later rounds. I don't think he was necessarily worried about being behind in the fight. I genuinely think that Beterbiev was looking to actually keep that KO percentage going on, that streak of 100% knockouts. I think he was more upset that he lost that, as opposed to worrying about how the scoring of this fight was going. That's just how it looked to me when I looked at it again. And yeah, when I come to the end of this fight, 5-7 Beterbiev is spot on. It's spot on. If you scored a 5-7 Bivol, like I said, I gave like rounds 3 to Beterbiev. You could give that round to Bivol. Personally, I felt that Bivol did do enough in round 12. I know all 3 judges gave it to Beterbiev, but I just felt that Bivol just did that ever so slight more in that round. So if you think about it like that, there are 2 swing rounds there. You give both of them to Bivol. You go from maybe having a 5-7 to Beterbiev to having it the other way, 5-7 to Bivol. So it's one of those fights that it's not an easy one to score, certainly not. Is it a robbery? Was Bivol hard done by, anything like that? No, I don't believe he was. I think that looking at it at the time, I was like, Bivol should have got it. When you look at it again in the cold light of day, especially when you watch it with the commentary off, and from what I've been told, obviously I watched this on the Zone. A lot of it was, pro Bivol. Bivol was being mentioned an awful lot. I was hearing other people who said they watched it on TNT, and it was the polar opposite. It was actually a lot more Beterbiev. So you have to remember when you watch a fight, and it is something that I always say, that's one of the reasons why when I do the watch-alongs at home, whatever I tend to kind of come with by the end tends to kind of be what I feel, because I'm watching it at home with no sound. I don't use the JBL mic because obviously it's just the way I do it back home. It's easier to just plug in the vlogging mic, and I don't listen to the commentary. I have the commentary completely muted. Last night, you listen to it with the commentary and you're kind of like, yeah, okay. It can sway you. And there have been times where I've watched fights in the past. A good example would be, actually this was another example where commentary did sway it, was when Michael Hunter fought Povetkin. I thought Povetkin won that fight initially watching it. Commentary was very much Povetkin commentary. Watched it again the next day, I was like, yeah, he didn't win that fight. No way, didn't win that fight. So even though he didn't actually win it in theory, it was a draw, but you get what I mean. This fight was genuinely close. Do I have a problem with Beterbiev getting it? No. And upon reflection, you could argue that the right guy won. To be honest with you, a fight as close as this, a draw would be fair. A win for Dmitry Bivol would be fair. A win for Beterbiev would be fair. A lot of people, I think, were just looking at the shots that Bivol was landing. At the end of the day, you can look at what Bivol is doing. It's a tricky one, because what do you want? Do you want someone who is more active? He's throwing more shots. He's not landing as many, but he's keeping the guy constantly moving. He's the ring general in there. He's forcing the action. He's forcing the pressure. In a round that went 2.5 minutes, he's done the most work. And then Bivol has maybe turned it on the last 30 seconds of the fight. Is that enough to really swing it? Let me know in the comments. Hope you enjoyed the video, people. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe, of course, as always, if you haven't already. For now, people, I will leave it there. Be interesting to know if you've seen it the next morning, what your thoughts are. Have you watched? I would always recommend watch a fight the next day, calms off. Let me know your thoughts. Hope you enjoyed it, people. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe, of course, if you haven't already.